Part 1. The Invisible Door. In a fog-draped valley where the sun always rose late and the wind whispered ancient secrets, lived a blind boy named N. No one knew who his parents were. The villagers only recalled that, one frosty winter morning, a woodcutter found the child wrapped in a red woolen blanket, lying silently at the doorstep of an old Eastern temple. His eyes were shut, no tears, no sound. N grew up in the heart of the village, not like an ordinary child, but like a living melody, delicate and profound. He couldn't see with his eyes, but he sensed the world through sound, scent, and the subtlest of vibrations. He knew autumn was coming, not by the colors of leaves, but by the change in the wind's pitch, the slowing footsteps of the elderly, and the fragile rhythm of dried leaves falling on the rooftop. The villagers both pitied and feared him. Some claimed N could read minds, others believed he was the embodiment of a blind deity. But N paid no mind to such talk. To him, the world was a continuous symphony, and his purpose was to listen. Until one night. In the middle of a dream, as dark as ink, N heard a strange sound. It was like nothing he had known, no shape, no vibration, but it thundered within him like a voice from another realm. If you want to see, walk through the door that cannot be seen. N awoke, heart pounding. No one had spoken. Only the wind played gently on the rooftop. He told no one. The next morning he rose earlier than usual, packed a small pouch with rice cakes, a bottle of water, and his familiar wooden cane. He turned toward the eastern woods, known to all as the Forbidden Forest. They said anyone who entered would vanish. The forest didn't kill, but it never gave people back, so no one dared enter. But N was different. To him, the invisible door was not a threat. It was an invitation. He lifted his cane and walked. Each step on the red earth felt like pressing against the forest's heart. He heard trees whispering, soil breathing and leaves sighing, as if the forest had long awaited this moment. When N reached the forest's edge, the wind stopped. Silence blanketed the world, thick as morning fog. Then he stepped through. There was no blinding light, no thunder, just a gentle sensation, like the world had quietly shifted. The forest air was different, rich and dreamlike, like the scent of forgotten memories. The trees seemed to move even without wind. With every step, the earth gently trembled, as if in welcome. He walked on, following the rhythms of the soil beneath, ears attuned like a wild creature hearing a distant call. Suddenly, a strange screech. He froze. Not a beast, not a tree. It was like metal grinding or a lock turning. Then came a laugh, faint and far away. "You've entered," a voice echoed. "You can no longer return the same." N did not flinch. He stood still, breathing slow, listening to every vibration around him. The voice held no threat. It felt like a gatekeeper acknowledging a guest. Softly, N spoke. "I do not wish to return. I wish to see, not with eyes, but with something deeper." A warm wind rose, not chilling but comforting, like a distant embrace. The voice lowered, almost a blessing. "Then walk onward. The forest will teach you." N bowed in gratitude. Then he walked deeper into the forest, and the darkness embraced him, not in fear but like a long-lost mother. Part 2. The Forest That Speaks. N stepped into the forest as if into another world, a place where time no longer followed the old rhythm and voices did not need mouths to speak. There was no light, but N didn't need it. He had lived his whole life in darkness, and here that became his strength. He didn't just hear, he sensed. The massive trees breathed in and out like living beasts. Leaves above rustled to a rhythm not born of wind. With every step he took, the ground pulsed softly, whispering secrets. "We've been waiting for you." Ian stopped. That wasn't a human voice. It came from beneath the roots, from the mossy earth, from the twisted branches above. "Who's waiting for me?" Ian asked softly, tilting his face toward the canopy. There was no answer. But the forest began to tell its story, the pooh. First footsteps he heard were not his own, but those of someone long ago. Faint echoes unfolded, a child's laughter, water dripping on stone, a cry lost to the trees. The forest was a vault of emotion, not preserved in sight, but in the subtle vibrations that only someone like N could see. He reached out and touched a massive trunk. Its bark was rough, but beneath it pulsed a faint rhythm like a heartbeat. As his fingers slid across the surface, the tree resonated, not with sound, but a vibration, like a distant bell ringing deep in his mind. The tree began to speak. "We were once wanderers like you. We saw not with eyes but with feeling, but humanity forgot. They trusted only what light could show, and forgot what warmth could reveal." Ain stood silently, every word falling into him like raindrops. Into still water. To see the truth, you must face your greatest fear, yourself. Then the forest quieted again. Ain walked on. He came upon a stream, gentle and silent, but when he dipped his hand into it, the water whispered. It spoke of forgotten dreams, words unsaid, embraces trapped in hearts too long. He heard footsteps behind him, turning. No one. But then, from behind a tree, a small creature stepped out. It looked like a fox, but strangely Ain felt it before. He heard it. It moved quietly, soundless. Yet within Ain its presence rang like a bell. "You do not belong here, but you have permission to pass." Ain asked, "Who are you?" The fox smiled, not with lips but with emotion pulsing like a gentle tide. "I am the keeper of feeling. All who enter this forest must leave part of their emotion behind. It is the price to truly see." Anne fell silent. "What must I leave?" The fox's presence grew warmer. "Your fear." Anne touched his chest. He knew it was true. He had never feared the dark, but he did fear one thing: loneliness, being. Blind, Anne had always felt different. He could hear what others missed, sense what they ignored, but he could never share it. No one truly understood how he saw. And so, even in a crowd, Anne had felt alone. He whispered, "I leave my loneliness." At once the wind brushed past him like a gentle hand. The fox disappeared. But something inside Anne had been released. He felt lighter. Ahead, two trees twisted into a natural arch. It wasn't a gate, but Anne knew it was a doorway. Not with his mind, but with a sense that something awaited beyond. He reached out. There was no handle, no hinge. But as he touched it, the gate dissolved like mist, and Ian stepped through. A new sense swirled into his lungs, like memories that had never been lived, and before him appeared a city, not bathed in light, but radiant, in a way he could almost see with his heart. Part 3, the City of Feeling. Ain stood before something no one would believe unless they had felt it themselves, a city without light, yet not buried in darkness. No lamps, no sun, no moon, and yet Ain could see it, not with eyes, but through vibrations that struck directly at his chest. Buildings seemed woven from memories, streets curled like songs half sung. The entire city felt aware of his presence. He stepped forward, each footfall like a musical note. The ground beneath him was soft, almost like skin, not repulsive, but warm and alive, as if the city itself were breathing with him. No one passed him, yet Anne could sense many beings around. They made no sound, but their emotions hovered in the air like fog. Joy, worry, longing, sorrow, floating above the streets like unseen clouds. A gentle hand touched his. "Welcome. You can feel us, can't you?" The voice didn't come from lips. It flowed through skin, through breath, through nearness. Ian nodded. His heart thudded, not in fear, but in something he hadn't felt in so long. Connection. "Here," the voice continued, "we don't need light to understand each other. We live by feeling. Each of us is a star, shining from within." He was led down a winding path, melody-shaped. Each house he passed radiated a distinct frequency. Some made his chest warm like a mother's lullaby. Others sent shivers down. His spine like wounds left to rot in silence. His guide introduced themselves as Oral, neither male nor female, neither young nor old, but a steady, kind presence. Oral said, "We were once human like you, but we chose to live through feeling rather than sight. And when we did, the world opened wider, deeper. It stopped being something we looked at and became something we listened to. Eisen was overcome with emotion. "Can I stay here?" he asked. Aurel was quiet for a moment. "You can, but if you stay, you'll never find the answer to your deepest question." "What question?" "You heard the voice, didn't you?" Aeon froze. His heart clenched. Yes, the voice that came that night. The one that said, "If you want to see, walk through the door that cannot be seen." He nodded slowly. "Then you must continue." Aurel guided him to the city's edge, where a bridge hung in mid-air. Below was a void, not a pit, but a non-space. A realm without sound, feeling, or echo. "We cannot cross," Aurel said. "Only those who give up every sense can reach the other side." Aeon's voice trembled. "If I can't feel, how will I know I'm alive?" Aurel laid an unseen hand on his shoulder. "That's the test. You must pass through the realm of no feeling. No love, no hate, no memory, no pain. And if you can, still find light inside yourself, you'll see what few ever do." Aeon was silent. He turned back toward the city, this miracle without sight, this kingdom of emotion. Then he stepped onto the bridge. With each step, he lost something. First, sound. Then, scent, then warmth, then touch, and finally, even the rhythm of his own heartbeat faded. Aeon drifted in a space of pure absence, no emotion, no memory, no identity. Only one question remained, pulsing like a faint echo. If you have nothing left to feel, are you still you? And just then, in that void, a flicker sparked inside, and not light awareness, a recognition I am still here, not seeing, not hearing, not sensing, but existing. And that was enough to ignite everything. Light exploded, not from outside, but from within. He shattered into a million rays of feeling, flooding the void. When Aeon opened his eyes, not physical eyes, but his inner vision, he stood in a completely different place, a place of darkness shaped like something living. Part 4, Darkness with a Shape. Aeon stood still in a place where even space seemed afraid to exist. The air was thick, dense. There was no smell, no wind. He could no longer hear his heartbeat, not because it had stopped, but because sound itself had disappeared. This was not the darkness he had always known. This was something deeper, something alive. It was darkness with a shape, darkness that could breathe, darkness that could watch. A voice erupted within him, not from without, but from the deepest, most buried corners of his being. "Welcome to the deepest part of yourself." Aeon steadied his breath. "Who are you?" "I am the part you never wanted to meet. I am the primal fear, the unanswered questions, the hunger for emotion. I am the hollowness in the eyes of children who were never held." Aeon shivered. He knew this voice. It had whispered to him during sleepless nights. It echoed whenever people laughed, but his heart remained silent. This was the inner darkness, the place even the strongest dared not look. He took a step forward. Though it felt like walking through mud, each step was a battle, not with the world but with himself. Then came the whisper. "No one needs you. You don't belong anywhere." He said nothing. Another voice followed. "If you vanished, no one would notice. The world doesn't need someone like you." His chest tightened, and then a shape emerged. It had no eyes, no skin, no form, but Aeon recognized it instantly. It was him, a version twisted by fear and void, cold, fragile, empty. It approached, and reached out a hand, his hand, and spoke with a breath like wind slipping through cracks in a door. "If you give me your light, the pain will stop. You won't feel anymore. No one can hurt you if you don't feel." Aeon looked into that hand, and for the first time in his life he saw himself, not with eyes, but with a truth so raw it pierced his soul. He trembled. He wanted to agree. He truly wanted to let go. But then he remembered something. The voice. "If you want to see, walk through the door that cannot be seen," he whispered. "Feeling is pain, but it's also love, it's connection, it's life." The shadow faltered. Aeon stepped forward, though it felt like dragging mountains with his feet. "You are me, but you're not all of me." The shadow screeched, cracking like glass. The darkness around him began to twist, trying to crush. Him one last time. En closed his eyes, not to run away, but to open the eye within. And when he did, he saw the darkness dissolve, not because he was stronger, but because he had finally faced it without turning away. There was no more shadow, no more whispering, only En and a lightness he had never known, as if something he had carried his whole life had finally slipped away. Before him, a new door appeared, not made of wood or stone, but of transparent light. No handle, no hinges, but it invited him softly. He reached out and stepped through. Part 5. The Inner Eye. En stepped through the door of light, and the world beyond wasn't loud or dazzling. It was silent, but not the terrifying silence of the forest, nor the empty stillness of the shadow realm. It was a pure silence, like the first breath the universe took before it ever spoke. He stood in a space of soft white mist without borders, without direction. But the strangest thing was, En was no longer blind, not in the ordinary way. Not because his eyes suddenly worked, but because everything around him revealed itself, not through vision but through clarity, through awareness. He could feel the shape of a flower blooming a mile away. He sensed every movement of the air, every shift in temperature, every echo of time like drops falling into a still lake. En knew. He wasn't looking with his eyes. He was perceiving with his whole being. Then, from within the soft void, a figure appeared. No defined face, no name, no gender, but its presence made En feel like he was home, safe, warm, ancient. You have arrived. The voice had no echo, yet it filled his entire being. En nodded. Why me? Because you never saw with your eyes, and so you were given the chance to see with your soul. En's voice trembled. And now, what must I do? The sea. Figure came closer and placed a finger, light as thought, against En's forehead. Return. En hesitated. Return? But everything I've seen, the lessons I've learned, if I go back to the old world, won't I forget? The figure smiled, not with lips but with warmth that flooded through En's chest. You don't need to remember with your mind. You've carved it into your heart. The world you left is still dark, but you are no longer blind. En closed. His eyes, or rather, opened the eye within, and when he opened his physical eyes again, he was lying on a bamboo mat in the old temple where he was first found. Morning light danced quietly outside. Birdsong echoed from the valley. He remembered no detailed journey, no names, no maps, but in his chest, a small, steady light pulsed quietly. From that day forward, En saw the world differently. When someone approached, he felt not just their body, but their layers, the hope they hid, the pain they carried, the love they longed to give. He didn't heal with potions. He healed with presence. He listened, not just with ears, but with his soul. And something miraculous happened. People began to see themselves in his presence. He taught children to listen to the voices of trees. He taught the old to speak their fears out loud. He taught the broken that as long as the heart still quivered, it was never too late to rediscover life. And on one moonlit night, as fog blanketed the valley, the villagers saw En standing alone on the hilltop. No cane, no guide, just him and the quiet radiance within him. He smiled. No one knew what he saw, but inside, En understood. The real eye isn't on your face. It's in your soul, where every crack becomes a doorway for light.